Hello everyone, I'm Preeti, Head of Events and Strategic Partnerships at WorkInsync. Welcome to today's session where we are about to discuss the journey of workplaces from pandemic to endemic and the changes it brought along. Before we start, I'd like to request the audience, if you have any questions for us during the session, please feel free to drop them in the chat box and we'll pick them up at the end of the session. This brings me to introduce our speaker for today, Dipesh Agarwal, CEO of WorkInsync. WorkInsync is a SaaS solution helping organizations set up hybrid workplaces globally.
Nice to be here, Preeti.
Thank you, Dipesh. So, there is so much of information to consume about hybrid workplaces, Dipesh. It's overwhelming and confusing as to what's working and what is not. Can you just help us break down the journey, please?
Sure, Preeti. Actually, the last 2 years have been overwhelming for all of us, to say the least. Our offices have changed from just places of work to being social hubs and places for being the melting pot. What I'll do is I will start by sharing what are the two fundamental structures of hybrid workplaces and how some of the companies have declared adopting those. I will use a deck which I have prepared and I'll just share it with you and the audience right away.
Sure.
Is that visible, Preeti?
Yes, it is.
Sure. So as I was talking, the two primary modes which we see people adopting for going forward for work is one is the hybrid office. This is where employers have told the employees that 2 to 3 days they can work from the office and the rest of the days they can work from home. Some of the employers have left it to the teams to decide that which day they prefer to work from the office, while others have left it to the employees. So it's got both the team level as the employee level preferences out there. This is getting quite widely prevalent and adopted, and companies like Google, Microsoft, Amazon have already declared that they are moving to this hybrid work approach. The second approach, while it is hybrid, but it is almost like a remote first approach. So it's moving from a present 100% remote to a hybrid with a remote first approach. This is where the companies do not mandate that the employees need to come to the office. There is no such policy. They have kept that the employees can and the teams can work as long as they want from their office. This is as of now adopted by LinkedIn, Pinterest, Shopify. But just as an important point, what I do see in the last just a few weeks that companies are sort of moving towards from one approach to the other. So there is still some changes going on as we speak.
Sure. Thanks, Dipesh. So do you think there are any significant observations from 2021 with respect to work culture that you think will continue to prevail in 2022 and perhaps beyond?
Sure. What I'll do is that I do see that probably the 9 to 5 work week, which was established during the industrial era, is sort of just out of the window. I feel a lot of companies are not going to adopt it. What I'm going to share with you and the audience here is that the WorkInsync application, which is a hybrid workplace application, we have analyzed data from 20,000 employees from 60 organizations across 15 countries. I'm going to show you some of our quick analytics and learnings, what we've seen, and some of the patterns which I think would be interesting for the audience.
Sure.
So the first is that so prior to pandemic, people were sort of working around 20 days from the office. One of the big patterns is that if we analyze the last year's data, we saw 72% of the employees were working 1 to 10 days from the office. So obviously the frequency has changed significantly. And 20% were working 11 to 20 days from the office, and a very small percentage, like an 8%, were working more than 20 days from the office. Now, obviously, I am sharing the data as latest as the month of February. And obviously, we've seen a few waves both last year and this year. So this might not be the stable state representation of what we're going to see. But for sure, I think somewhere between 10 to 12 days in a month is what I see would be a stable state equilibrium. So this is one data set which came out from our data. The other part is that I am on this graph. You're seeing three timelines: the February 2020, just before pandemic; 2021, between the wave one and wave two; and as recent as last month, February 2022. We saw when we plotted and kept the pre-pandemic as at 100%, we saw that we plot like a return to office. We saw that the return to office was increasing gradually, and we saw that a lot of enterprises were sort of returning back to the office. And I think when I said enterprises, uh, at least 2 months back, it was dominated by the banking and the financial sector. And I'm sure you saw the Wall Street banks declaring that they are serious about getting the employees back to the office. But what is very interesting is that when I take, and this is just some clips of the media, some of the media clips from last week, that even the Silicon Valley companies have declared that they're going to be returning to the office very quickly. Most of them have declared very firm dates around it. So I think this is very interesting that we will see this trend of 15% rising up very quickly. On the similar note, on the same note, what has also been interesting, that while you see that large companies have only got into 15%, and maybe by March would kind of be at a 25%, but startups, both early stage and late stage, when we analyze the data, it was that 60% of the employees were already working from the office. So I think one of the reasons which I thought, and more like a startup founder than anybody else, is that startups actually maybe require the way they are designed and the way the processes are, maybe a little more in-person collaboration. Whiteboarding helps, and I'm going to speak a little bit about that as we deep dive into some of the other topics. So just hold on to that thought. The other interesting part which we also saw, and I think this is going to be very interesting for our workplace analysts, are that if left to the employees, they prefer specific days to show up at the office, and Tuesdays and Thursdays seem to be the days of preference. Wednesday is also a very close second. So between Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, all the 3 days are preferred by the employees to come to the office. Mondays, not so much, and Friday is people just don't want to show up at the office. I'm sure you can lose employees if you ask the employees to come to the office on Friday. While I think, just as a side note, what it can happen is that if we adopt hybrid with absolute flexibility to the employees, I think a very simple hypothesis could be that everybody will show up between Tuesdays to Thursdays, right? So obviously we will look deep into it, that how can some of the tech enable it to make the usage patterns smoothen. But yeah, I think that's like a very simplistic view of things. Just one more data point which I thought would be of interest is that if you see this graph on the left, this is the graph of the usage of meeting rooms, the utilization of meeting rooms in the office from a pre-pandemic level to when I said now, it is actually the month of December 2021, which we plotted. So if you saw that pre-pandemic, on an average scale, the meeting rooms were utilized around 10%. And given that we also track meeting room utilization as a part of the offering, for the month of December, which actually was the festive month, which had Christmas and New Year and New Year holidays, the 10% went up to 21%. So you surely see that when people are coming to the office, they really want to spend time with one another. The other interesting fact, very related to this topic of collaboration, is that prior to pandemic, people the time at which people were coming to the office varied from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. So there was like a 4-hour gap in which people were coming to the office. But when we looked at our check-in data of the employees, check into the desk or check into the office data, we saw that this time of 4 hours sort of shrunk to 1.5 hours. So people were coming to the office between 7:30 and 9 a.m. So consciously, people were choosing to kind of overlap. So if you club this two data points, right, people were trying to come on same days, and people were also trying to come on the same time, and the meeting room utilizations were increasing. So I think in a very simplistic manner, employees are coming to the office consciously to collaborate with one another. So yeah, so these have been some of the interesting findings, Preeti, from our work in sync usage data over the last 1 year.
Wonderful, Dipesh. And I find it very interesting that 72% of employees, as you mentioned, are working from office for at least a few days in a month. And the reason for most employees visiting the office, as you said, is rightly collaboration. And I think all of us are coming to office for the same reason. So this clearly proves that employees are preferring the hybrid work model, so to say. With this piece of information, Dipesh, what implications do you think does it have on the organizations?
So maybe we can talk about both the sides, more from the organization or the employer perspective. I think there are three major points to be considered, and they're all beneficial if I were to just summarize them. The
Sure.
first is the talent retention. Now, this is a global survey, and obviously we don't have to read a lot into the specifics of the survey. We've all seen articles and noted for ourselves, and I've seen this in my own organization, that there has been a massive amount of churn from the employees. So I think what it says very clearly from surveys is that if employees are not given a flexibility, they would eventually move to organizations which provide them flexibility. So I think that's the first and the important one. The second part of it is that in a hybrid mode, at least data, and this is from the research of Professor Nicholas Bloom from the Stanford University, that there is a data which shows that there has been around a 13 to a 24% productivity increase. And when he talks about productivity increase, I think the two important factors which contribute to it, one is the reduction in the commute time, and second is the focus time which the employees get when they're kind of working on their own. So I think that results into the productivity increase. The third, which I think a lot of workplace team would be interested, is that it's estimated that $11,000 per year can be saved by adopting hoteling or hybrid workplace technologies. I think obviously a lot of it is because you don't require the same office to kind of keep the people, because people will come alternate days or less than a week. You can obviously adopt tech solutions, work in sync or otherwise, for hoteling, etc. So this is very significant saving, right? $11,000 a year, and this can kind of increase depending upon which city you are in across the globe. So these are three important points if you look from an employer's perspective. The one important point which I think from an employee's perspective, while there are many benefits of flexibility, work-life balance, etc., but what very important point is that if you as an employee are coming to the office around 2 days in a week, so 2 days out of 5 days, just on your commute time, you will be able to save uh, around 3 days in a month. Now that is very significant, right?
Yeah.
You will save obviously some money, some gas cost, car cost, etc. Plus there is savings of time, right? So I think in nutshell, I do see hybrid going forward as the default operating standard for the companies.
Wow. Well, that does sound like a win-win for everyone, Dipesh. So that brings me to my next question to you is, what in your view will be the main area of focus in an organizational setup in the future? What do you think needs to be done differently here, Dipesh?
No, sure. Now, some of my views of what, and I think these views can change, can evolve. We're all learning as we are talking. The first is that I think technology more than ever becomes very important. And let me say why, what I intend, and not just in a general view, but in a very specific view. If you were in a pandemic work from home mode, it's very simple. All the employees working from home, that's it, as simple as that. All of us are on Zoom or on Teams. If you were in a pre-pandemic, that's work from office, very simple, give or take, just on average only 5% of the workforce was working from home on a particular time, but the rest 95% were working from the office. So but now, while hybrid, I've made it sound cool, it's easy, people will adopt it, but there are going to be challenges when you adopt it. And I think, just to point one challenge, if you and I are, and maybe there's a marketing team of 10 people, and our company gives us that you're going to can work 2 days in a week, it is only going to be important that we all decide which day we will show up, because collaboration cannot be done if somebody shows up on a Monday, somebody Tuesday, somebody Friday, and just assume somebody who doesn't like working with people shows up on a Saturday. So I think technology becomes very, very important.
Absolutely.
The second is, I think, and a little bit of, because I think as a startup founder, I'm a bigger fan of this, is that enable collaboration. And while the collaboration can or is being done with tech tools like Zoom meetings, WebEx, etc., but I think I read a lot of narrative when companies like Google, Microsoft say that I think they thrive on innovation, and innovation is a result of whiteboarding, huddling together, talking in the hallways. And I can vouch as a founder that there are things which, when things are not clear, when things are evolving, this collaboration really helps. So I think those two are related to how to make things smoother, making it work. And I think third, but a very important part, which we've all realized during the pandemic, is the well-being of employees and the employees' mental health. Just to kind of put this in perspective, Gartner did a survey of around 2,000, a little over 2,000 employees. And the result of the survey was that around 44% of the employees felt less work fatigue. Uh, and 45% of them said that they will not look, they're okay with their present employers if their present employer they feel is concerned about their well-being and is doing something about it, right? So I think these three, if you put it in a certain combination or in a certain mix, can reverse from the great resignation to probably the great return.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Dipesh. I think that's the trend that we are seeing. The verbatim is changing very rapidly, and we all seeing this happening as we speak. You've been saying, that the organizations are focusing on employee centricity, and you're also saying that technology is integral to all of it. What kind of solution do you really think can tech offer in setting up an ideal hybrid workplace? Because all of us are challenged in some or the other way. How do you feel, that tech can, mitigate those challenges, Dipesh?
Sure, Preeti. As I mentioned before, technology has become very important in this connected world. You can obviously see the kind of investments even the large tech companies are doing and the startups are doing. So let me just give you things in perspective, right? So this is kind of what a work and sync solution, which is a solution to make for hybrid workplaces offers, right? And maybe I'll spend a few minutes to talk about this offering, which obviously is detailed, and we can do that separately. Is that a solution like work and sync first enables employees and teams to kind of, depending upon their preferences, decide which day they're going to be in the office. And then the day they're going to be in the office, as I mentioned, that employers are looking at making their office spaces flexible in terms of no reserved desks, bookings, etc. Now that can be achieved. If I just to give an example, if you see on the left, this is sort of like a screen which we use every day in our office as well, where I define that I'm going to be in the office on a Monday, Thursday, and Friday. So those are my preferred days because I want to work 3 days in the week, depending upon maybe I have some work and I'm flexible working from home on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And my preferred time I also declare is 9:30 to 17:30. Now, depending upon these preferences, on the right hand side, and obviously the employee privacy and whatever needs to be declared, only those information is shared. I can see a high level calendar of my teammates. And if you see, I can see 5 of my teammates prefer to work on a Monday, right? So given that I prefer and those guys also prefer, so one of the days which I will plan my going to the office is obviously going to be Monday. And then I can sort of see, if I double click on this, that what's the timing which is preferred? Is it 9:30 to 5:30, or the overlap time could be different, right? So you see there is this planning element, which is what I called earlier the use of technology.
Yeah.
And once we decide, and obviously this is an example which I've shown where the employees decide, everybody decides which day he she are going to be in the office. Now there is obviously an alternative where, let's say, I as the head of marketing team can decide that, guys, this Wednesday I want to meet all of you in the office. So I can kind of schedule using a very simple calendar like option. I can schedule that Deepesh, Preeti, or anybody else, A, B, C, D, E, I want to see in the office from 9 to 5. So please come. And obviously, on your Work in Sync app, you'll get notifications, and then you can plan your travel. So both these options, either it is employee centric or team centric, you can first plan when you're going to be in the office. And then the second important part is that then you can decide which place you're going to be working from, right? Obviously, what I've seen is that a lot of companies kind of divide these in neighborhoods. So let's say a marketing team, which is a team of 20 people, could be given 10 seats. So depending upon this, or you could just make them as hot desks, which means that anybody can sit anywhere. So let's say I have to be in the office and I have to spend a lot of time huddling with you, then I would prefer to book a seat close to yours, right? And similar way, I could book other spaces such as meeting rooms. The solution also has a capability that uh, you can also book your parking spaces if you are driving to the office, and it also extends to cafeteria and other places as you need. And eventually, Preeti, what this will give you is it will make the employee's journey to the office frictionless, but will also enable the workspace managers and workspace strategists to collect a lot of data. One of the things which we saw that companies had, let's say pre-COVID, the utilization of the desks on an average was 80%, and the utilization of meeting rooms, as we saw, was 10%. But you can notice if you collect this data for a quarter, maybe the utilization of the desk is only 40%, and the utilization of meeting rooms is gone to 80%, and maybe the utilization of the collab spaces have gone to 100%. So
Yeah.
you can now collect all this data and maybe at the right time look at redoing some of these spaces to make sure your office is more employee friendly and productivity friendly. So I think that's kind of the nutshell of what a hybrid workplace tool like Work in Sync can do to make sure that post COVID, when the employees are coming to the office, uh, the most important part, that is collaboration, interaction, and productivity is taken care of.
Wow. Yeah, I think, this is phenomenal. I don't know what exactly a hybrid will look like without the tech support here. We have few questions flowing in from our audience. I'll read them out to you, the page. Perhaps you can take them. So Don looks, he's asking for can we get a copy of this presentation? Certainly, Don, we'll send it across to you. We have somebody asking, which is the most prevalent hybrid model that you've seen with your clients, that you have seen your clients adopt? Does it vary across sectors and industries? Very interesting question, Vedish.
Sure. So I think with the first important point, that we've seen companies make an announcement globally that they're going to be 100% remote, and then they will adopt. So I think the first model which we've seen companies adopt is leave it to the employees decision and the team's decision that they're going to be in the office. Mostly companies are choosing 2 days to any 2 days they want to be in the office, and probably after 30 days say that every team at least 2 days has to be in the office. So that's the preferred model which we are seeing. So Vedish, and obviously, as you understand that the um, tech or the knowledge industry is tech related, internet tech related firms are the ones which are adopting it. The banking, the financial sector is more preferring like more face to the office. That's what I at least see the Wall Street and even the European banks adopt more and more. So not 2 days, but let's say 4 days, and eventually depending upon how it rolls out, maybe 4 to 5 days in the office. obviously manufacturing firms have to be in the office. So that's where it is. Startups are on both of the ends of the segment. I showed you certain startups which are trying to huddle, etc., have a high percentage in the office, while very, very small startups, let's say sub 20 employees, are also opting for 100% remote.
Sure. Thanks, Dipesh. Dipesh, I got another question from Rosa, who has a couple of questions apparently. She's asking, what is the cost of this technology and how it gets set up? Will this work with team who works across state? We need to have a skeleton staff in each office. I would like to have a presentation of the products for my team. Certainly, Rosa, I will have the presentation set up. Meanwhile, would you like to answer the page that if this can be set up across state, for the skeleton staff that they need to have in every office?
Yeah, Rosa, absolutely. As I mentioned, across states, across geographies, even across countries, it's working in 15 countries. So absolutely, the technology is scalable. Pricing is a function of what are the number of employees, what are your use cases. It's priced on a per employee per month basis. You can check the websites to give you an indicative quote, and I'll surely ask Preeti to set up a follow-up meeting for you to have a look at the product.
Sure. So the next question is the employee scheduling module available for both employees and employers?
Yes. So I think let's divide this. The employee scheduling module is technically available for the employees, and then it is available for the team managers. Now, team manager, obviously, as you understand, has privileges to do that. The super admin will have the privileges, but there isn't. You can move the team manager to the business unit head, and you can do these. The system is fairly flexible. So depending upon what your workspace policies are, those privileges can be assigned.
Sure. So there were different RTO trends that you showed. This is a question by Anisha. What other trends are you expecting? I think she means to ask in terms of RTO that, what do you expect? Where is it going to go from here?
So I think the return to office, as I mentioned, that we're right at the exponential growth. No, so as I mentioned that December, even though it was a holiday month, we had seen the return to office peaking. Many of the organizations globally were actually just about to announce their return to office. Some of them actually announced and then had to backtrace it because of, unfortunately, Omicron thing. But I think with this wave getting over, globally organizations have actually fast forwarded their return to office. So if I have to take a stab at it, Onisha, just from what I predict of the last 8 weeks data, I would see around 20 to 25% of the employees in a pre-pandemic will be back at the office.
Sure. I don't see any more questions, and I think we are well in time. Looking forward to more engagement going forward as well, and we'll keep bringing up fresh data, fresh trends for our audience. And thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, Dipesh, and wishing you all a very good day ahead and a very happy weekend.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, Dipesh.